In today's episode, we'll be speaking with Sam Sokolow. Sam is a two-time Emmy Award-nominated television and film producer known for developing and executive producing Genius, the acclaimed scripted series for National Geographic and Disney+. Each season of Genius has explored the lives of iconic figures, including Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, Aretha Franklin, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X, earning numerous Emmy nominations, including for Best Limited Series. Sam currently leads Sammy Nice Inc., an independent television and film studio overseeing development, production, and global partnerships. He has produced 19 original TV series, set up numerous projects at major studios, and developed over 200 original film and TV properties. In addition to producing, Sam is a passionate educator and mentor. As a professor of practice of film and television at Clemson University, he teaches courses that prepare students for careers in the entertainment industry. Sam also serves as Director of Certification at Stage 32, developing global training programs for film crews in collaboration with international film commissions. Sam, welcome to the Expressions of Leadership podcast. It's so great to have you join us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and the credits sound good. The bio sounds good. Hopefully, I can live up to my own my own bio. That's awesome. It's rare that you hear those things. So, but it's really is a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to have this discussion with you.
Likewise, and it's quite an impressive resume there, and that's only a small portion of it. So, again, very excited to have you here on the show today.
Thank
Now,
you.
among the many professional pursuits that you have had in your life journey, including being a crime reporter, producer, and professor, what has been the red thread of your leadership style?
If I had to pick one sort of North Star for how I think, which I think obviously anybody's leadership style comes from how they see the world and how they approach the world. Is that there's always a solution. That's something that no matter what I've done, I learned at a young age from mentors of my own when I was, not just studying leadership, kind of just figuring out how to make your first film, figuring out how to start a company, figuring out how to make TV shows and cut to now figuring out how to grow a global training program or how to build a film school, the production side of a film school. It always comes down big or small to me that there's always a solution. And if you know there's always a solution, it may not be the solution you planned for when you started, but there is always a way to figure out a way to solve a problem, solve a moment, leap over a hurdle, climb a wall, bust through a wall, dig under a wall. There's always a way to solve what you're faced with. That might be something that you have to figure out. It might be something that you're working with a team to figure out and you're encouraging solution oriented thinking. But I've always, and I think that it's allowed me to approach all these different fields because I never approach something from a point of view of this is going to be hard. I always approach things from a point of view of this is just going to require a bunch of solutions. And we have to stay present through this process so we can be a solution oriented thinker. And to me, that's been my red thread is just being a solution oriented thinker. Um, I think making films and TV shows is an amazing training ground for that mindset because you're in a solution oriented sort of posture 24 hours a day for as long
Mhm.
as things are happening. And those solutions can range from simple things like we left the red shoes back at the production office and anybody have some spray paint, we just have to get the shot, to we can't use this location or we're shooting outside and it's raining, and how are we going to solve these things to keep a show moving forward and keep us on schedule and keep us on budget and keep us on time. Um, and I think that those lessons translate into being an entrepreneur, being a professor, trying to build programs. It's always about coming up with solutions. So I encourage myself every day when I wake up. I think, all right, there's going to be things to solve today. Don't look at anything as as too great or too small or too hard or too challenging. Just be solution oriented, and everything will get done. And that's always been what's led me through my days.
And so, in addition to problem solving, what other values underpin your leadership philosophy?
There's a couple, that I would say I try to think about. The number one, which I think goes to problem solving, is being honest. You have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself first and foremost. You have to, learn to see the playing field realistically, and you have to be honest with others. And that can be a challenge for some people, especially when they're starting out, when they think they might have to be, I don't know, a little bigger than they really are, or I don't know, have a little bit of a bluster, or feel that their ego might need to sort of carry them through an experience. And while some of that may be a little true in some cases, um, I think that honesty is the key to everything. I always, when I was starting out and at the very bottom of the call sheet as a production assistant, the folks that I were working for, the assistant directors that were training me, said, you don't have to know everything. You have to be honest about everything. It's okay to say, I don't know, but then follow it with, I'll find out. And then as a leader, I felt the same. Be honest with everyone. Be honest with people. Be honest with people about where we are in time and space. Be honest with the people paying for things, about what we're dealing with. Bring in everyone to the same level set, and then figure out the best ways to move forward. And sometimes there aren't problems. Sometimes it's about solving opportunities. Hey, we have all these resources. We have everything we need. How are we going to approach something to make it the biggest, the coolest, the funniest, the best? And I think that always comes with being very honest with yourself, and with the people around you. Uh, Another thing that I would say is show up early. Like, it seems so simple. It's something that you can control. If you're supposed to be somewhere at 6 in the morning, show up at 5:30 in the morning. If you're the first person there, you know, read the paper, get on your computer phone, like listen to the radio, whatever it is. But showing up early sends a message to the people that you work for that this is the most important thing. You've shown up early and prepared. And I found that when I ended up at the top of the call sheet, showing up early and prepared, set the tone for everybody on the production that, this is the priority. And this has to be the priority for all of us right now. And when the day is done, go live your life. I couldn't, that's up to you. But when you're
Mhm,
here, be early and be ready. And
mhm,
I think that's a principle that you can control. So being honest, uh, being early, being ready, and then the last, which I think goes to how to be a good problem solver, and even how to
mhm,
be the most honest person about what's happening, is listen. Be
mhm.
a listener. When I started my career and I was trying to sell my early TV shows or sell myself into the industry, I probably talked a little more than I should have. This is a podcast, so that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now. But I've learned over time how to listen, and you don't always have to agree,
Mhm,
and you don't always have to follow what you're hearing, but you do have to listen. You owe it to the people that you're working for to listen. You owe it to the people that are working for you to listen. And if you listen enough, it creates respect. It creates an environment of collaboration, but it also ties back to the beginning. It gives you the best chance of solving problems and
mhm,
figuring things out, whether they
mhm,
be, literal physical problems in terms of like a production thing, or personality issues. You know, don't listen to one side of a story, listen to all sides of a story. Hear
Hmm.
what's going on, and then do your best to either, you know, either fix it or encourage it to fix itself.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say those are the three things that I focus on um, as much as I can, which is just being as honest as I can be with everything and everyone, be on time, certainly, and listen, be a good listener. And that more than not, I find helps lead to all the things we're talking about.
Hmm. That listening is so critical when it comes to leadership, no matter what position you're in. Because as you said, it also allows you to open up new perspectives, which then allows you and others to come up with more creative ideas, more creative solutions, be innovative, and to really think about what's going to be the best decision for all of us moving forward.
Right. And if you happen to let's just use an example. If you happen to have multiple opinions coming at you or multiple points of view of a situation or a moment coming at you, at least when you make the decision, if it's yours to make, or you encourage the decision that needs to be made, everyone feels heard. And so, you know, leadership, since that's kind of what we're talking about here, so much of it to me comes from getting everybody on board and rallying people to continue to do the job and continue to do the mission or the project. And being heard goes a long way, I think, to creating good morale, which is really important. So I try not to make decisions, again, if they're mine to make, before I hear all sides of things. But there have been moments in my career where I'm like, look, I know what we need to do, but I'm not going to just mandate it. I'm going to take the
Mhm.
time to listen to everybody. Maybe my mind will change, maybe it won't, but at least I know on the other side of this hour, everyone will feel heard and everyone will be ready to pull in the same direction again because they were heard. And I think that
Mhm.
if you dismiss people, their feelings, their opinions, their ideas, their point of view on what might have happened or not in any given moment. Um, and that could, I mean, that literally could be the simplest thing of,
Mhm.
we thought a shirt was supposed to be green and it's chartreuse. It isn't the green we thought, and this person thought that, and this person. It's like, okay, well, let's just get to the other side of this. But everybody feels heard, and now we're
Yes.
going to make a decision to move forward, and we'll all have felt that way, so we can all get back to putting our energy into what we're supposed to be doing and pulling in the same direction. And I do
Mhm.
think that morale is something that is a big deal. It matters. Happy
Mhm.
people do better work than
Mhm.
unhappy people, and frustrated people can poison the well. And it
Mhm.
doesn't take a lot. This is, it's not rocket science, at least on this side of what we do. Um, but it doesn't take a lot for little factions to happen on a project or
Mhm.
at a company or in a corporate environment, anywhere. And if people
Mhm.
feel heard and seen during the process, it becomes a lot easier, I think, to accept um, decisions if they're not the exact decisions they thought might happen. But at least they're like, hey, we were heard, we were talked to, we got our point across. And then if you have the clarity or the ability to then explain why you've made the decision, then that makes it even better because everybody's been heard. But here's why we think this is the best interest of what we're doing, and this is what we're going to do, and just thank everybody for their input, and then move forward.
Exactly. When they're heard, they feel valued, and that's so incredibly important. You want to feel valued in whatever work you're doing.
Heard, and at least again on a movie or TV show, and fed. Never, like, always put more money in the budget for food, for good food, for nurturing people. If people feel heard, great. And if people feel taken care of, that they're going through a long, hard day, but there's good food, there's good choices, we didn't chintz on it. We want you to feel good about the work you're doing. And if you need something during the day, it's there for you. It seems really simple. I learned that on the first movie I made, that I also was the director on. And we made a little misjudgment on food the first day. Um, Simple story. We took out from a place. We thought it was a great idea. We're going to,
Mhm.
make sure everybody has what they want. But it was a rainy day and we went a little over time in the first half of the day. So by the time everybody went to eat, everything was a little cold and not great. And it kind of created a real kind of wah kind of vibe on day one. And we were like, we got to solve this. Like, we can't do this every day. If we do this tomorrow, people are going to start walking off the crew. And again, creative solution, simple, but we were like, let's take what we have for food and let's go buy a grill and let's hire somebody to show up every day and let's light the grill and let's make a hot meal for everybody, no matter what time they can eat. And it was the simplest thing, but it morale changed immediately. So make sure people feel nurtured and heard.
Yes, being fed is pretty important. And that's also a good reminder to take care of our people in multiple ways by listening to them, valuing them, and nourishing them.
Really, and it goes a long way, I mean, I know it sounds kind of crazy as a leadership thing, but it if you're feeding people correctly, it kind of permeates into other ways you think about everybody. It's like your job is to take care of everyone.
Mhm.
They're not there for you, in my mind, when you're leading. You're there for them, and so how are you going to be there for people? And
Mhm.
and food is really truly one of the ways.
Mhm. Now, you recently moved from Los Angeles, the capital of entertainment, if you will, to Greenville, South Carolina. In what ways has the move and the new opportunities that come with that shifted the way you lead or how you're engaging as a leader?
Well, it's a great question. I moved here for the best reason in the world, which is love. My wife is from this part of the country, and we there was always a plan to come here at some point, and this was the chapter about a year ago. And One of my best friends in LA, who's a great writer, producer, a terrific guy. We've collaborated on shows before. When I told him that we were going to make this move, he said to me, the most exciting part of it is what you don't know. I live in the upstate of South Carolina. That's really um, kind of, it's unstepped on snow, as it were, when it comes to production. But the state in supporting a larger industry, this area wants it. And it's been really exciting because I did get brought into Clemson University to help build their film school and the production side of their film school. That's been an amazing opportunity to become a professor at a great university, um, one that has been a leader in so many different areas. Sports being obvious if you're a football fan, but engineering and agriculture, and now they want to have a competitive film program, and I get to bring all of my experience, all of the leadership qualities that we're talking about to help kind of build something. And academia, especially a school that's a public school that is part of the state, it things take time. And you have to learn how to be a little bit patient. But I'm seeing tangible results. So the ambitious part of me that wants to build something, not just do something, which is why I built production companies in LA. I didn't just wasn't just a producer on shows. The opportunity to help build this film school is remarkable. And then you look kind of past it a little bit now that I've been doing it for about a year, which I know is not a long time. Um, and you're like, well, what happens when these students graduate? Are we just training them to go somewhere else? Or can I be a part of helping to build a little industry up here? So there are
Mhm.
jobs here and Hallmark movie shooting here. Netflix does send a show here. Greenville's an amazing city. You drive around and you feel like you're in a Christmas movie all the time. And it's just idyllic and beautiful. And there's a lot of talent up here in terms of cinematographers and actors and crew and writers. My wife's a writer, a screenwriter, and an author, and is from here. So the South is filled with incredible storytellers. That I knew coming here. So can I be a part of harnessing that storytelling, lineage and power and muscle? And that's going to now take getting some productions going here. So the students we graduate have jobs, and the Stage 32 stuff teaches me a lot about crew development and how that works. So, it's a long-term plan, but I feel like all of my experience in life led me to this place. And there's so much opportunity here, and all those experiences prepared me for it. So we'll
Mhm.
see. Like I said, it may not end up exactly the way I see it in my head now, but if, like anything, if we use the process we've learned, keep solving problems, keep setting goals, keep figuring things out, good things will happen.
It sounds like you have a real vision for what the Clemson film community is going to look like. How are you enlisting other people to be part of that vision?
It's the same principles as how I managed to build my career in LA. There's uh, a great quote that that I've heard along the way, that someone said to one of my mentors, when they were transitioning through some career stuff a while back, which is, in this industry, you got to learn to roll with the lunches. And it's kind of the same here. I had breakfast this morning with a guy that I recently met who happens to live in Greenville, but has a special effects, visual effects business, has done big things, just did a project with David Cronenberg, has worked with Netflix, but he's based here. This is where he's raising his family. And I'm like, okay, there's another resource. But it's not just seeing it online. We went down, we broke some bread, we had a coffee, we met. It's about, I think, socializing with the community, meeting people, individuals. It's not just the community, really growing your network of people, listening to them, hearing what's going on, um, trying to determine what can we be great at now, so that we can grow and be great at other things as we go, and maybe bigger things as we go. Um, but what can we be great at now? And then how do we sort of motivate something that everybody could be great at, and we make something here that becomes significant? And a really big deal for me, because my wife's family is from here, and they're now my family. And this isn't a sort of quick stop. We're here. This is a chapter. And so how do we grow it with tremendous respect to the community we're in, to the business community, the political community, the social community, the ground itself, the way the city runs? How can we do something that is of the right spirit, and also brings all the benefit of what a great production community can bring, but does it in a way that Greenville can be really proud of and feel really good about, and not feel, frankly, like some Yankee showed up and did something that wasn't, you know, there. This is my turf now, and I've been coming here for 30 years with my wife, so I feel like I kind of understand it enough, and I'm learning it as I go. But meeting with business leaders here, meeting with community leaders here, a lot of it really comes down to back to listening, and then turning around and trying to apply those principles to growing something. And this is long-term stuff.
Mhm.
This is long-term stuff. I mean, the focus, the other biggest thing that I would say, which I think we'll touch on again, through in this conversation, is about being present, and like, so you can't just, it's not like these are things we're thinking about and hopefully working towards, and that's all it is working towards that. You don't get there by dreaming about it. You get there by literally waking up every day and doing the best job I can do as a professor, giving the best that I can give to the students and the university, doing the best job that I could do at Stage 32, giving the best of myself to the program and the film commissions and hearing what their needs are and trying to figure out how to use what we're building for their betterment, you know, and and then meeting with all the people around here and listening and learning and kind of figuring these things out. And from that emerges opportunity.
Yes. Leadership takes collaboration and really leaning into your best self. And it also means putting forth real effort, especially knowing that leadership can be tough and oftentimes it comes with challenges. So, in light of that, can you share a difficult leadership moment that you've experienced and what steps did you take to overcome it?
Yeah, I can think of one immediately, and I may come up with a second one because there's no one sort of perfect example, I think, for anything. But I'll give you one story, an anecdote that occurred, and that I was in a position to make the call. And uh, a few years ago, I'm going to say honestly, at this point, it might be 10 years ago. I was doing a series for a cable network, one of the bigger cable networks, but they didn't do a lot of original programming, and they decided to make a show, and it was a non-scripted show, sort of what they called infotainment. So it was like an informational reality show in the world of travel, and that was pretty cool. And we found these two awesome young ladies that were kind of travel influencers that became our hosts. And we were shooting, a series of episodes. And one of the things that I learned very, very quickly when I had my own production company early on, and we were what's called a third party production company, which meant we weren't owned and operated by a studio. We were independent. We were a third party, so we would get hired, and part of our deal always was if we came in a little bit under, we could pocket the money. There was a limit, but if we came over, we had to pay for it. So that teaches you pretty fast to be responsible. And again, communicative with your production accountants and your production coordinators and your line producers and everyone responsible for money along the way as you're balancing the creative. Brian Grazier, who I obviously had the incredible honor of working with on Genius, said to me once that producing in his mind is like skiing, that one ski is the money and one ski is the creative, and you have to keep them together. And if one gets too far ahead or behind the other, you fall down. And so I learned, I was like, I need to be very thoughtful of these things while we're creating something. And so one of the things that we realized is that mistakes are going to happen or things are going to occur. And if they're going to create additional costs, and they're not costs that the network will approve or the studio will approve, we have to cover them. So we have to save money along the way. It's not about spending everything. It's about spending things in a really intelligent way to make sure you have everything you need to make a great show, but making sure that you're keeping money sort of tucked away for a rainy day, as it were. And if you get to the finish line and it's still there, take everybody out to dinner. But if you get to the finish line and it's not there and you're in the red, that's very hurtful. TV shows are expensive, and as an individual, that's a lot. So we were doing this one show. The line producer and production manager were awesome. My producing partner on it was awesome, and we really worked hard to kind of have a little bit of a rainy day fund in case something happened. One morning, or sorry, one afternoon, we were filming a scene where our two hosts were talking to a family about this potential travel experience. And we were shooting it with three cameras. And one camera was on the family, and one camera was on each host. And there was an employee on the show whose entire job it was to take the cards out of the cameras, put them onto drives, and then back up those drives. And then a drive would go to the office to be the backup, and a drive would go to the editor to edit. And we woke up, or it was like late that night when we were done shooting. I got a frantic phone call from the production manager that the young man we had hired, and this is it's a 25-year-old guy. So this isn't like, this is a person still starting out, busting his tail, doing his best, had done a great job up until then. And he had made a mistake with one of the cards. And we didn't have actually, we had one camera floating between the two hosts, and we had one camera on the two of them. And the camera on the two of them was the shot we needed the most. And that was the shot that we didn't have. We didn't have it anywhere. It wasn't on any card. It wasn't on either drive. It was just completely lost. And the poor guy was just beside himself. He was so upset, and he had a lot of friends on the crew. And I actually think he was dating somebody on the crew as well. And that predated the show, and was a happy accident. We just hired this young lady as well, and turned out they were, so there was like, the crew had some closeness to them. And it's a moment in time where you have to say, do we call the network and say, we have a problem, and sort of expose the issue, which then creates its own cauldron of fire that you have to deal with? Or do we have enough money to go back to this location, put them back in the same wardrobe, and just get the two of them, because we didn't need the family again, and shoot their reactions, play back the other tape, and just sort of get it, and get it enough that we can edit that scene? What's it going to cost? How can we do it? We got on the phone. The location agreed to let us come in before hours the next morning. So what it did was it solved the problem, but it also protected our crew member from being the one that created the problem, from exposing him to the network, creating a bad reputation for him in time, which turned him around, and then turned the other crew members around, because they saw that they were protected. They didn't have to be perfect. If there was a mistake made, we as the leaders of the show would solve it in their best interests, in the show's best interests, and even to some degree in our own best interest, because the headache of dealing with the network with a mistake would have also taken us out of some things, and changed our focus. So it was a moment in time where, again, it's easy to point fingers. It's easy to kind of make one problem escalate into some big thing. Or have you prepared yourself in a way that you can make a decision, solve a problem, but in solving the problem, create better morale, better loyalty, better vibes? And when we made that decision, we did it for all the right reasons, I think, but everybody on that crew would have run through a wall for us for the rest of that production.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I sometimes will get an email from him saying, you just can't know. It's 10 years later. I'm now producing TV shows. My career is where it is. But that moment taught him so much about how to lead, which also, I think, I learned from people. You have to teach people, I think, by example. So I think it's a great anecdote on how to prepare yourself for issues, leadership issues. Make sure you kind of have a little, I hate violent analogies, but have a little dry powder, in case you need it. And then make sure that, again, when you're making a decision, don't make it in your own best interests. Make it in the best interests of the show and the people working with you, and support the people working for you. And, if at the end of the day, you don't have a few extra bucks in the bank, but you also didn't go over and expose yourself, but you protected the people that are working on the project, working for you, it's always the right thing to do.
You also created a lot of psychological safety in that group, and that's really essential for people to feel good about the work that they're doing, to bring a sense of belonging, and also to build trust and loyalty.
It's a big deal. And I think that building trust and loyalty, again, you can't hope for it. You can't demand it. You have to earn it. And
Mhm.
you earn it by solving problems in a way that that makes everybody just know you got their back. And then if you need something, they'll have your back. To me, I think that's the most important part of leadership. I really do. I think making people feel safe and secure and valued
Hmm.
is the whole game, because then you'll
Hmm.
get their best, and in getting their best, it'll be the best, and it'll
Hmm.
succeed. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you can't you got to lead. You got to lead from a position of, what's the say phrase? Be a servant leader. How can you serve the people you're working with if you happen to be in a position of leadership? But people would always ask me, um, what is a producer? Like, what does a producer do? People know what a cameraman does. They know what an actor does. But like, what does a producer do? And while there are many, many definitions and many types of producers, um, I always, or eventually distilled it down into, my job is to put the best team together that I can for something, and then put each of them in a position to do their job well. If I could do their job, I'd do it. I can't. I'm not a cameraman. I'm not an editor. I'm not an actor. My job is to try to put a great team together in any given circumstance, and then give them the resources, the tools, the environment to do their job great. And if I do that, the end product will be great. And the challenges and solving the problems along the way is really just a part of that. It's really a part of putting people in a position to do great work. And part of that is feeling valued. It's a part of it.
It's a very important part of it and a very big part of it.
Yeah.
Well, we've now reached the part of our show where we ask the guest to share some advice and also something fun about themselves. Let's start with the advice question. What's one habit or mindset that you'd recommend for anyone to live a better life?
It's obviously a big idea, big question. To distill it down, I think here I would say, there's two and I think they go hand in hand. One is to be present. You know, don't live in yesterday. Don't worry too much about tomorrow. Doesn't mean don't plan for it, but don't worry too much about it. Be right here, right now. There may be other things to do and other things to think about, but I'm right here talking to you right now. And be present in your day. If you want to be a part of, certainly the job of having a production company is multiple things happening all at once. Being present in every room, being present in your life, being present when you're with your family, being present when you're with your friends, just being present in your life, I think allows you to be the best you can be, which of course you have to be if you're going to lead anybody anywhere. And another part of that is to be grateful. Try to really live in gratitude. And how you access gratitude is different for everyone. For some people it's meditation, for some people it's prayer, for some people it's simply, kind of just existing in that place. But try to be as grateful as you can be for those things. I always tried to show up in the mornings and just be like, holy cow, we get to do this work, even if it's challenging. I get to do this work. I have a lot to get done today. It would be easy to be like, well, it's the Friday right after the holiday, and a lot of people aren't technically coming back till Monday. I'm going to kind of go, whatever. But no, I'm very grateful to have all the opportunities that I have. I'm very grateful to get to do the work I get to do. I'm very grateful that when this day ends, I get to have dinner with my wife. I'm very grateful that I get to take a walk tomorrow, in this beautiful new area that I live. I grew up right off of Central Park in New York. That was nature to me. Now I actually live in nature, and I'm very grateful for it. And so I think if you can, at the very least, practice gratitude and being present and marry those things so that you're always grateful in your moment, you will become happier. You will live a better life, but you will also, I think, be better at your craft, whatever that craft is.
Mm. I'm right there with you. I often say I am living the dream when people ask me how I'm doing. And I am so grateful to be able to say that and grateful to be able to have a life where I feel so fulfilled in what I get to do every day.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it really is. I'm very blessed that way.
And now for our fun question. If you invented an ice cream flavor, what ingredients would you have and what would it be called?
It's a great question, and I'm not that great a cook. So kind of inventing flavors and food, I like almost everything I leave to the people that are really great at it. But when we were living in LA, there was a farmer's market that was walking distance from where we lived every Saturday. And there was a woman there who made vegan ice cream. And we were like, well, we got to try it. And it was the best ice cream I've ever eaten in my life. Vegan, non-vegan, you name it. She was an artist. She was not a mass producer of things. She was an artisan. And I fell in love with her ice cream. And we would go, buy her ice cream every week. We get vegan ice cream for the week. And it was like incredible because we wouldn't tell people and they'd come over and be like, try this ice cream. We're like, where'd you get this? And we're like, you wouldn't believe it, but it's this vegan ice cream. So we became friendly with her. And one morning I showed up and she had created an ice cream for me with my name on it. And it was perfect. It was a chocolate babka ice cream. And babka is sort of a kind of a Jewish chocolate, not like a bundt cake. I don't know how to quite describe it. It's kind of like it's just like the most delicious thing in the world. And when I was a kid growing up, I loved it. I mean, my grandmother would buy babka and bring it over, and if I got into the kitchen first, half of it would be gone by the time anybody else walked in. Like I just freaking loved it, and she didn't know that. And so somehow she created this vanilla ice cream with chocolate flavors and a little kind of sort of it tasted like chocolate babka, and I literally couldn't believe it. And she was like, "It's Sam's chocolate," and it was the perfect ice cream for me because I love vanilla ice cream, I love chocolate, I love kind of like a little texture, and it was a perfect ice cream. So if I had to create an ice cream, I'd probably create a chocolate babka ice cream, and this amazing artisan Amy created one in my honor, and so I'm going to give her credit for knowing what to do there better than I ever could.
Chocolate babka. That sounds delicious. Are you able to have it delivered to South Carolina?
I am not, regrettably, we haven't quite figured that out, but you always need reasons to go back to LA, so that's good enough.
Very nice. Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your stories and your wisdom on the Expressions of Leadership podcast. And thank you to our audience for tuning in and spending your time with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been a real pleasure.